time you play so smooth, makes me wanna groove. Patrice, let's groove.
Welcome to Seniors Matter. I'm Brenda Edwards. We're live every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Rainier Avenue Radio World, your South Seattle community radio station. You can also listen to us on YouTube and Facebook, and of course on the Rainier Avenue Radio App. We feature interviews with people that provide services or have valuable information for seniors, their families, and the community. Do you need financial documents notarized? Are you a person that needs documents read to you for clarity or completion? Just give me a call at Black Orchid Notary 206-683-2636. Tell me where, I'll meet you there. Well, you know what time of the year it is, so let us please be an informed voter. Older adults come out to vote more than any other age group. Nearly 2/3 of the electorate was 50 years old or older in the 2022 midterm elections, according to the data from the Pew Research Center, and 53% of the electorate was 50 plus in the last presidential election. For many older voters, showing up to the polls feels like a routine part of being an American citizen. Today, my guest is Cathy MacCaul. She's the Advocacy Director of AARP Washington. And I know Cathy is going to have a lot to tell us. So welcome to the show, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brenda. Always a pleasure to be on the show.
It's a pleasure for me to work with you because you are a very, very dedicated advocate, and AARP Washington is very blessed to have you. And I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love what I do. I love the role of advocacy and supporting older adults.
Yes. So I know you've been very busy. So what's the update on the Initiative 2124?
So to all the voters out there who haven't voted yet, please vote. As Brenda said, it's so important for you to vote this election. And, you might have issues with, different races. You don't have to vote for all races, but, I hope that you vote your conscience and vote, the things that matter most to you. AARP has taken a no on I-2124. So 2124 is one of the initiatives that is on the ballot. And 2124 basically takes away the long-term care insurance program operated by the state, which is called WA Cares. So we are really trying to defend, and protect the WA Cares program. And you can do that as a voter. If you have not mailed in your ballot yet, you still have time. Vote no on I-2124. But it is looking really good. It looks like from all of our polling that we've been doing, AARP and our coalition partners, is that we're seeing a really increase in the number of people voting no. And that they've already voted, and if they haven't voted, they're planning on voting, and they're planning on voting no. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that again we get voters out there to say, protect my long-term care, don't take it away, vote no.
So Cathy, can you explain a little bit more about that? How WA Cares came into being and how it is going to affect people?
So AARP has been working on WA Cares for about 10 years. And Brenda was a commissioner on the Long-Term Care Commission. I'm also a commissioner on that commission. And basically the reality of the aging of our population became so overwhelming to look at the budget. How do we actually pay for and support people as they age? Because the state, just like education, has a financial obligation to help older adults. And that means through Medicaid, paid by taxpayers. But what we were projecting and seeing 10 years ago was that this aging of the population was going to overwhelm the state Medicaid budget. And this gives individuals an opportunity to pay in a very small amount of money. It's 58 cents for every $100. So it's less than, if you're making $50,000, $60,000 a year, it's less than $350 a year for you to pay into a long-term care benefit that will be available to you when you need help with the 3 activities of daily living. So it's really important because people have not planned. Nobody wants to think about getting old. Nobody wants to think about, facing a debilitating disease or dementia or, having an accident, a slip and fall, breaking a hip. But we know 70% of people are going to need some type of long-term care in the future, but they have not saved for it. This gives you a way to save. You're not even thinking about it. You save for that inevitability that when you need it, this benefit will be there.
So, Cathy, how does that work for people that are older adults that are no longer working and they don't pay into walk cares?
Right, exactly. I mean, oftentimes, I talk to a lot of older adults who say, you know what, I'm retired, or I have a long-term care policy. I bought one, back when I was 50 and when they were affordable, 40. And so I'm covered, or I'm not working and I'm not paying into this benefit. I think it's really important for people to keep in mind their kids or their grandchildren. Because oftentimes what happens is caregiving is a family responsibility and family turns to family. And we know that family caregivers pay right now out of pocket on average about $7,500 a year just to cover and help do what they want to do, which is care for a family member. And that's why the Walk Cares benefit is so great, is that it gives the person who's the beneficiary the ability to use their benefit to pay for things like transportation. So, if they need to hire an Uber or they call them cabulances to go to, from one medical center to a hospital, they can use it for paying for meals. They could use it for paying a caregiver, paying a family member to care for them. But we wanted to make sure that the Walk Cares benefit was flexible so that people would have the ability to choose how they wanted to use the benefit and that it would take the burden off the family. So again, think about your kids and your grandchildren. If you haven't turned in your ballot yet, vote no on 2124, because unfortunately, when there is a crisis in a family, oftentimes, the younger generation comes to the older generation, looking for financial help and assistance. And so it will help give the whole family a little bit more confidence that this benefit will be there for them in the future.
So when you were speaking about paid caregiving, and I know that the AARP Foundation is working with that and has a program. It's called Paid for Care. And is that something that anybody can get benefit from or find out more information about?
So I'm not as familiar with that program under the foundation, but AARP has a tremendous number of resources for caregivers. And there's a great booklet, and I think that program's mentioned in this booklet. It's called Prepare to Care.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can go onto aarp.org/caregiving, and there's a lot of information about caregiving. I know Brenda does a lot of work, with end-of-life planning and, helping people get all the paperwork that they need to make sure that they have all the pieces in place so that, as they age, that they have confidence that they're not, again, going to, be a burden to the family or friends that are going to be the executors of, their estate. So there's a ton of resources and information on Prepare to Care. And I was just this morning looking at some of the end of life, because I'm the caregiver for my mother who's 87 years old. And over the a day or two ago, she was not feeling well. And it just always frightens me.
Sure.
And then today she's fine and she's
good.
So we have ups and downs. But it's just nice to know that there's a tremendous amount of resource available. AARP has some of the best and brightest minds. They also work with, the insurance industry. They work with hospitals, medical providers, attorneys, sociologists, psychologists, academics in developing all this material. And then we try to really distill it down so that it's easily understood by consumers and helps give them direction.
Right. If you're just tuning in, you're listening live to Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles Edwards, on www.rainieravenueradio.world, your South Seattle community radio station. We're here on Fridays at 12:30 p.m. Do you know what's the best legacy we can give ourselves and our loved ones? Join me on Zoom for a group or individual session on legacy end-of-life planning. Now back to my special guest, Ms. Cathy MacCaul. She's the Advocacy Director of AARP Washington. And Cathy, I know that AARP is involved in so many things, but what are some of the key priorities for the rest of the year?
So AARP, so after the election, and again, I keep mentioning vote no on I-21.
Got to.
Get those ballots in, please, everybody. Just let's have the highest voter turnout in history. This is such an important election.
Right.
But once we get through the election, we're going to have several new members of Congress. And so we need to really make sure that those new members of Congress are aware of issues impacting older adults. And we're going to be reaching out to all the members of our congressional delegation. We have 10 members of Congress and we have 2 senators. So we want to reach out and remind them of how important it is to focus in on issues that impact older adults. Right. So during the federal election, during the election as a whole, we've also been focused in on Social Security. So AARP is continuing to fight for Social Security to make sure that the benefits are there, that they are funded, that we have access to this benefit because you've paid into it. It's your money. You deserve to have access. So AARP will continue to fight for Social Security. Medicare, we also want to continue to fight. One of the issues that we're a little concerned with right at the moment is some of the Medicare Advantage plans have decided not to offer their plans in Washington State.
Oh.
And that's really concerning. So I'm digging into this, and our federal people are. It's the Medicare Advantage are managed by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And so it's at the federal level. But if you are having an issue with your Medicare, I would highly encourage you to contact SHEBA. It's the State Health Insurance Benefit Advisors, and it's operated by an incredible group of volunteers. And you could just Google search SHIBA, and they will help you because open enrollment is right now. And so if you have found that your health plan is no longer providing payment to your healthcare provider, contact them. They can help you kind of navigate and make sure that you find a plan that, covers your medications, that, covers your current care provider, your doctor or your nurse practitioner. So they are available, but we're seeing it's a kind of a startling trend. So we want to really address that. Then we also see some consumer protection issues that we, again, kind of want to keep track of. One of the most significant ones is around medical debt. Medical debt, a lot of people carry medical debt. So they have let's say they have an emergency. So I'm going to use an example of my friend. She just fell down the stairs, broke 5 ribs, broke her elbow. She's 62 years old. Oh. She lives right in Columbia City. Mm-hmm. And she, all of a sudden, medical emergency. And, insurance covers a lot of it. But I reminded her of, one, we have charity care in the state. Make sure you talk to the hospital and ask them about charity care.
What's charity care, Cathy?
So charity care is basically, if you income qualify, the hospital will pick up possibly even 100% of the cost of your care. But you have to income qualify. But I would encourage every single person that's listening to this right now, if you find yourself going into the hospital, ask when they admit you or when they are taking the insurance card and paperwork and everything, ask them for their charity care policy, because it is determined by your income level. And we worked on a bill, I think last session or the session before, to increase the insurance and increase the income eligibility level. And at the time, A.G. Ferguson was leading that, his whole office, so that more people could be eligible for charity care, because nobody should have to go into debt in order to respond and take care of themselves. So, but at the same time, we also know that a lot of people carry medical debt, and that impacts your credit score. And so we don't want medical debt on credit scores. So we want to try to figure out how we can remove that. Then we also don't want medical debt to be a barrier to care, so that when you go into a hospital, that a hospital or a medical center could say, well, we can't care for you because your credit score's bad.
That makes no sense.
That's outrageous. There's a responsibility. Our medical system and our hospitals have a responsibility to you as the consumer. So we want to make sure we're holding them accountable. And then we also want to continue to look at other kinds of improvements that we can make to the WA Cares program. And because we know that we will be successful in this initiative battle. And we want to continue to make people aware of the program, and also make sure that more and more people have access to it and or know how to use it. So one of the things that has been considered is for the people that opted out to let them opt back in to the program. Because we know, again, if we don't address the issue of long-term care now and have people help with the solution, we all as taxpayers will pay that bill for the individuals needing long-term care.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Cathy, there's so much misinformation circling around about everything in this election. But as far as the items that AARP are working on, where can people go to get the sources so they can be correctly informed on how to vote?
Well, one of the best, AARP created a great voting page. So it's aarp.org/WA votes. So aarp.org/WA votes. And so on there, it has a lot of information about voting, where to vote, how to vote. Let's say you lost your ballot. One year mine got stuck in the newspaper pile and I couldn't find it. I fortunately did find it, but at the same time, I contacted my precinct office and I contacted the Secretary of State's office, and they sent another ballot, and they said, oh yeah, take that other ballot and you just throw it away because we invalidated it. So they have a way, computer wise, to invalidate a double ballot.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, I learned a lot from my mistake.
I guess.
But anyway, there's a lot of great information. And then also, Google search no on I-2124. We are in the voters pamphlet with a no statement in there and more explanation. So read your voters pamphlet. And then also you can Google search no on I-2124. And you can see a lot of information. AARP comes up in the search along with the coalition of 140 organizations. Ooh. So 140 organizations are telling people to vote no. And that includes the Nurses Association, the Multiple Sclerosis Society, the Moms Rising, just a huge number of groups that just see how damaging this initiative could be to our long-term care system.
You were talking about Social Security. What exactly are they trying to do to it? I know that they want to use our money, but can they legally do that?
Well, that is the challenge. So the latest threat, and AARP was a super strong advocate to prevent this from happening, was they wanted decisions around Social Security to go into a commission or into a committee process. which would be closed door meeting, closed door conversation, no public input, and make decisions about Social Security impacting millions and millions of individuals who rely on that benefit.
Would these, excuse me, Cathy, would these people happen to be people that are not paying into Social Security, but like, government people that we pay their salaries?
Well, I don't know exactly, if they have, jobs outside of Social Security that aren't paying into Social Security. Like my mother was a school teacher for 35 years, so she does not collect Social Security. She has a pension through her LA Unified Teachers Union. But it was basically to make, decisions around the investments of Social Security and about how the money would be used and how it would be invested and how the trust would be sustained. And our concern, AARP's concern, was that it was a closed door meeting, is that
Right.
there was no opportunity to have, democracy in action where you have conversation, you debate and argue issues, and felt like the commission structure that they were proposing was stacked against the consumer and against the beneficiaries of Social Security. So when AARP sees something like that, we spring into action, and we want to make sure we're defending Social Security because we know a growing number of older adults rely on that heavily for their retirement.
Right.
And even though we continue to advocate for the individual to make sure you have a good balance of retirement savings, and if you have a pension or if you have any kind of other investments or savings, that Social Security is part of the mix and not your sole way that you're going to plan for your retirement. But we know the reality is that is the situation for a lot of older adults.
So true. So true. Why, I was just, while you were talking about that, I was just thinking about Big Pharma and how, I know that they're upset with the things that Medicare has been able to get a little more control over. And you got to keep fighting because, nobody's giving us anything. We're working hard for what we get, and we need to get what's due.
Well, I'm really glad you brought up Big Pharma because that is something also that AARP is continuing to look at, is how we can bring down the cost of prescription drugs. Mm-hmm. So the Inflation Reduction Act passed by President Biden, it takes place, a really key date for seniors to keep in mind is January 1, 2025. Ooh. That is when your out-of-pocket cost for prescription drugs is going to be capped at $2,000 a year.
Yay!
So for all prescription drugs. And also immunizations are free. Mm-hmm. And vaccines. So because we knew that, again, older adults on fixed incomes, it's such a challenge. Right. But it's really important to know that, AARP was working very, very hard on fighting the prescription drug industry to drive down those costs. And then we also negotiated, we now have 10 drugs. There's a list I think we have it on our AARP website. If you look, aarp.org/rx is a list of the current drugs that have been negotiated by Medicare to drive down the cost. As there's some of the leading drugs that people would know, by name. I think there was Xarelto was one on there, which is a blood thinner for people with COPD. There was several other Jardiance. So anyway, there's drugs that are now being negotiated by Medicare the same way the VA used to do or does, and it drives down the price for consumers. And so that's the first 10 have come out, and then next year there'll be an additional 10 medications. But what we're doing is we're looking at the top drugs that people use, especially as they age.
For sure. And high blood pressure and heart disease.
Cholesterol. Yep.
Yes, all of that. Oh, I tell you. Wow. So Cathy, have we missed anything? We've got a couple minutes left.
Well, I think, the other thing I kind of wanted to bring up is I spoke at a conference this week on older adults and in the workforce. And, because Social Security is not enough to live on. And we're seeing more and more older adults going back into the workforce, even part-time. And there's some really interesting little loopholes within Social Security where you can still work once you've reached your full retirement age,
right?
That you can still work and still collect Social Security and still get paid. So it's really important for people to know those distinctions. And there's a calculator, not a calculator, but there's a chart on again, AARP.org. And so I was talking at this conference because there are income levels. So if you're before your full retirement age, and so full retirement age for like me is 67, but that if you're even before your full retirement age, you can still work. So let's say you retire at 64, or if I retired at 64, I think it's up to like $60,000 that you can still work, still collect money, and still receive Social Security. So anyway, it's a little,
to know.
Yeah. And there's another one that's 20 or something related to 22,000. So be careful, check it out first. But I also, because we know that older adults often say, you know what, I really want to go back to work. And maybe it's not just for money. And that's the other thing I talked about at this conference. Oftentimes it's for social engagement and to be around people. And we actually see that in our data. One of the things that why older adults go back to work is social connection, and they want to be in the office. And so I was telling this group of HR professionals, I said, you might be struggling with the 20 and 30-year-olds who want to just work remotely and virtually, but you could have an older adult that's maybe staffing your front office, and is there all, to engage with. And so don't overlook the older worker, and that older workers should really consider, thinking about getting back into the workforce, and don't feel like you're being hindered because then you're going to lose your Social Security benefits. First, explore the options, but there's potentially, again, I'm not saying for everyone,
right?
But there's potentially that you can do that and still stay connected and involved with your community and the labor and the workforce labor side.
Got it. Well, Cathy, thank you so much. This has been very educational. This is Brenda Charles Edwards, host of Seniors Matter. You can watch us and listen to us on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, YouTube, and Facebook. We're here at 12:30 on Fridays. And also, I just want to let you know that Rainier Avenue Radio is holding a live fentanyl awareness town hall tomorrow at 11 a.m., which will also be broadcasted. And election results will be live on Rainier Avenue Radio November 5th from 6 to 9 p.m. Thank you to my listening, viewing audience. Cathy, thank you so much for the time that you've given us for this. This has been very educational. I will be talking with you soon. And thanks to songstress singer Patrice Isley for letting me use her music. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Please don't forget to vote and live your life. Bye, Cathy. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.